They stood in the graveyard at night, holding a ring. There, they took a solemn vow. Even in death, we shall be together. If you die before me, I vow to kill myself and join you. And if I refuse to kill myself, let me die. Let this graveyard be the witness of my vow to you today. Michael spoke first. When he finished, Tonto took her own vow and repeated the same words. And if you die before me, I vow to kill myself and join you. If I refuse to kill myself, let me die. Let this graveyard be the witness of my vow to you today. When they finished taking their vows, they sprinkled their blood together on the ring. And they declared, "We bind our spirits. When we die, we shall be together. We shall be together in life, and we shall be together in death." After that, they buried the ring in the ground, right there in the burial place. Covering the ground added the final words, "May no force be able to break this vow. May no force ever come between us." Now wow, whoa. Things are truly happening, especially in this matter of love. Now, my friends, sit down quietly, open your 2 ears wide and listen carefully to the story I am about to tell you. The story of Michael and Tonto. Let us begin. A long time ago, in Kaduna, there lived 2 lovers named Michael and Tonto. They were both students of Ahmadu Bello University in Kaduna State. They had been in love ever since they started studying at Ahmadu Bello University. Their love was very strong, very, very strong. When I say strong, I am not talking about those relationships, the ones that cheat today and apologize tomorrow, or the kind where a partner travels to Lagos but lies that he went to Abuja. No, not that kind of love. I am talking about a faithful, very faithful relationship. The kind that something under the skirt cannot break. The kind that makes people question, is it true love or is it juju at work? They loved each other deeply. They loved each other so much that they took a vow they should never have taken. They took a vow that bound them in life and in death. After they graduated from school, Michael proposed to Tonto. And without hesitation, she accepted the proposal. She was very, very delighted. At last, she was going to start a family with the man she loved more than life itself. Months later, they got married. But on their wedding night, something tragic happened. Something painful, something no ear will hear and not reject instantly. After their marriage, they lodged at the Golden Orchid Grand Hotel, a place people described as a 7-star hotel in Kaduna. They chose to stay there to spend their wedding night. After being lost in each other's arms and having a good time together, Michael stood up, carried his laptop, and stepped out of the room. He told Tonto he needed fresh air and would be walking outside for a while. He asked her to come with him, but she said she was tired and wanted to rest. Michael left the room and sat very close to the pool, typing away on his laptop. 13 minutes. That was how long he sat there. Then suddenly, people began to run out of the hotel, screaming, "Fire! Fire!" He glanced at the building. The hotel had caught fire. He stood up immediately, eyes widening. "Is it really a fire?" he muttered. Then fear struck him like lightning. "Tonto, Tonto, my wife!" He ran inside the hotel. People tried to stop him. "Where are you going? There is fire on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor. The fire is spreading." No, it can't be the 3rd floor. My wife, my Tonto. No. He ran, screaming her name. "Tonto, Tonto." He rushed upstairs, choking in smoke, stumbling, breathing hard, but still running. But when he got to the 3rd floor, he stopped. The whole place was covered in fire, flames everywhere, burning walls, burning doors, thick smoke swallowing everything. No, he muttered weakly. This can't be. He tried to run forward, straight into the fire. Security men grabbed him. He struggled violently. "Let me go!" He pushed one of them hard and broke free, rushing toward the flames again. They grabbed him again. He fought harder, kicking, pushing, wrestling like a man whose soul was being torn apart. "My wife is in there! Tonto!" He screamed her name again and again. His voice cracked. Tears streamed down his face. He tried to force himself into the fire, but they dragged him back. He broke loose again and ran 2 steps forward, but they caught him once more. He cried, "My wife, please, she needs help. Let me go. Please, help her. Please." He struggled like a man fighting death itself, but the fire kept spreading, and the security men, holding him tightly, dragged him away, dragging him outside, away from the burning floor, away from his wife. Everyone ran for their lives, but Michael could only scream her name into the raging fire. The fire burned and burned. Sirens filled the night. Fire trucks arrived. Water roared through heavy hoses. Smoke rose into the sky like a dark cloud of morning. For hours, the flames fought against the men trying to kill them. And Michael, he knelt on the floor, staring, shaking, his eyes fixed on the burning building, his lips moving silently, still whispering her name, "Tonto," again and again, like a prayer that refused to end. At last, after a long and terrible struggle, the fire was quenched. Silence fell over the ruins. Heavy smoke drifted slowly into the night air. The once beautiful hotel stood blackened, broken, wounded like a giant that had fallen. Then the search began. Rescue workers entered the building. Stretchers came out. 1, 2, 5, 10 bodies, covered, still, silent. More and more were brought out. People began to cry. Some collapsed. Some screamed the names of their loved ones. Some could not even speak. More than 150 bodies were recovered from the hotel. 150 lives gone in a single night. Michael stood frozen. He watched each stretcher pass. His heart was pounding harder, faster, louder. "No," he whispered weakly. "No, she is not here. She cannot be here." But then another stretcher came out, covered in white. Something inside him trembled violently. He stepped forward slowly, as if pulled by an invisible force. His legs felt weak. His breathing grew shallow. A rescue worker gently lifted the cloth. Michael looked. It was her, his bride, his Tonto. For a moment, he did not react. His mind refused to understand what his eyes were seeing. He blinked once, twice, then his lips began to tremble. "No," a whisper, soft, broken, barely alive. "No, no, no, no." His knees gave way beneath him. He collapsed to the ground. His hands shook as he crawled closer, afraid yet desperate, reaching toward her. "Tonto." His voice cracked completely. He touched her hand, cold and still. That was when reality struck him, like thunder splitting the sky. A sound tore out of his chest, raw, deep, wounded, a cry that did not sound human. He wept. He wept like a man whose soul had been ripped from his body. He held her, calling her name again and again, begging, pleading, refusing to believe that she was really dead. "Wake up, please, please wake up. You cannot leave me. You promised. We promised. Tonto, please." His whole body shook violently. Tears poured endlessly. His voice broke into helpless sobs. People tried to pull him away from Tonto's corpse. He refused. He clung to her like a drowning man holding the last piece of the world he knew. "My wife, my life, my everything. You cannot go. Not like this. Not tonight. Not now." And that was how Tonto lost her life. How a night that was meant to be her happiest became her last night. She died in that hotel, along with many others who also lost their precious lives. 6 months later, after the incident at Golden Orchid Grand Hotel, Tonto was finally laid to rest. She was buried. Michael stood by her grave, dressed in black, his mourning clothes, holding a single flower, tears streaming down his face. He stood there and spoke softly, his voice trembling. "I don't know why death has to be so unfair. I don't know why they had to take you away from me. What did I do to them that they had to take you away from me? Where did I go wrong? What was my mistake? What was my offense? How could they take you away from me? I love you. I love you a lot. You can't even imagine how much I love you. Why? Rest in peace. Please, just rest in peace, all right? But just know that I will always love you. Always." Those were the words Michael said while standing by Tonto's grave. But what happened next? What he did next? Maybe that is the step any living person will take. After all, love is meant only for the living. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and Michael moved on completely. He had moved on, truly moved on. He was supposed to fulfill the promise they made at the burial ground by ending his own life and joining Tonto. But 8 months had passed. 8 good months after Tonto was buried, and yet Michael had not done it. He remembered the promise quite well. He remembered the night they stood at that burial ground, the night they buried the ring in the soil, the night they made their vow to be together, the night he promised to follow her if she died before him. He remembered everything, but he still did not fulfill the promise. He did not fulfill the vow he made in that burial ground. He did not keep his word. He believed those words would have no power over him, so he chose to break them. He chose to break his promise. He convinced himself that those vows were nothing but mere words, empty words, words that would never come to pass. But what he did not know was that their vow was not weak at all. How could it be weak when even the Bible teaches that there is power in the tongue? In truth, the vow had already begun to manifest from the very day Tonto died. From that exact moment, it began. Because Tonto's spirit had been living with him. Yes, living with him. Her spirit had followed him from the day she died. She followed him everywhere, to work, home, everywhere he went. When he went out to relax with friends, she went with him. But Michael could not see her. Tonto's spirit had not been accepted into the underworld. She had not crossed over. She was stuck. The promise they made at the burial ground bound her spirit. She could not pass on alone. She had to go with her husband. As she was married in life, her spirit was also married in death. She could not enter the underworld by herself. She needed Michael, her husband, to cross over with her. That was why she wandered around him, following him everywhere. Even when he went to the toilet, she was there. But Michael could not see her. And she herself did not know how to communicate with him. She tried. She tried to speak, but she was only a spirit. Her voice could not reach him. Again and again she tried, desperately trying to make him understand that she could not enter the underworld because of their promise, trying to tell him that the vow must be fulfilled for her soul to finally rest in peace. But she could not. She could only watch him dress, watch him eat, watch him live his life. Sometimes she lay beside him, so close, yet impossibly far. But speaking to him, truly communicating, had never been possible. She had tried. She had tried so many times, but nothing had worked. One evening, when silence had settled upon the house like a heavy cloth, Michael sat on the bed in his room, reading a newspaper as though nothing in the world could disturb his peace. But he was not alone. Tonto was there. Her spirit stood near him, restless, wounded, filled with a sorrow that had long turned into anger. Her presence trembled with emotion, and at last she began to shout at him. "Michael, I do not understand you anymore. Have you truly forgotten about me? Have you truly forgotten our promise?" Her voice shook, not only with anger, but with a pain so deep it seemed to rise from the very roots of her being. "Tell me, have you truly forgotten the night we stood together? The night we spoke words that even the earth opened its ears to hear? Or do you remember and decided not to do it?" She moved closer to him, sorrow blazing in her eyes like a hidden fire refusing to die. "Do you even know what I am going through over here? Do you know what it means to exist yet never find rest? To follow you day after day, night after night, and still remain unseen, unheard, untouched, like a shadow with no owner?" Her voice cracked, but still she continued. "My spirit cannot rest, Michael. It cannot cross. It cannot be received among those who have gone before. All because of that promise. The words we spoke were not ordinary words. They were strong, powerful, living, so strong that they bound me from entering the world beyond. They bound me, they chained me, they locked me between worlds." She pressed her hands against her chest, as though something unseen tightened around her soul. "I am tired. Do you hear me? I am tired of wandering, tired of waiting, tired of watching you live while I remain trapped between what was and what should be. Are you even listening to me, Michael? I am speaking to you. Stop reading that newspaper. Listen to me, please. Every word I speak carries my suffering. I am weary of wandering. Fulfill the promise we made so my spirit may finally know peace. Fulfill what we sealed so we can be together." Her voice rose, trembling like thunder gathering before a storm. "You must do what is needful. We must be together. That was what we promised. Before the universe, before the earth beneath our feet, before the silent dead who stood as witnesses." Her face hardened, wounded, betrayed, searching for answers that refused to come. "What I do not understand, what I cannot understand, is why you are still alive. Our vow was clear. If you turn away from what was sworn, death will answer. Yet you still breathe, you still walk, you still live. You are going back on your word, and yet you remain among the living." She spoke for a long time. She poured out her pain like rain in the season of storms. She poured out her sorrow, her loneliness, her endless waiting. She begged him to fulfill what they had sworn, so her wandering spirit might finally find peace. But her words fell like seeds on dry stone. Michael did not hear her. Not a whisper, not a sound, not a single cry. Frustration filled her. Sorrow swallowed her. Her heart felt as though she had been thrown once more into the very flames where her life had ended. Slowly, weakly, she sat beside him, looking at his face, tears falling without rest. She could not understand why Michael was choosing to break what they had sealed together. They had loved deeply, fiercely, beyond ordinary love. Why turn away now? But what troubled her spirit the most, what refused to leave her mind, was this. Why was he still alive? He had not done what was required. He had not fulfilled what was sworn. He should not still be walking among the living. Yet he lived. Confused, troubled, restless, she resolved to seek answers, to find out why Michael was still alive, even though he was supposed to be dead. Their vow had spoken clearly. If he refused to do what was needful, if he refused to fulfill what was sworn, he would die. And yet he was still alive. He still walked among the living. Confused, she decided to seek answers, to find out why Michael was still alive, even after breaking their vow. Tonto's spirit stood up slowly and said to Michael, "I am going out. I want to go and find out why you are still alive, even after breaking your promise." After saying that, she turned and vanished from the room. She went straight to that particular burial ground, the place where they seeded their spirits, where they bound their spirits together. She went there. She stood in the burial ground, looking around her. Then she sighted two beautiful young women standing far away, discussing and laughing among themselves. She went close to them, greeted them, and asked, "Hello, can you guys see me?" At first, they ignored her. Then she spoke again, her voice heavier with worry. "Please, tell me, can you guys see me? I am really troubled. I need help. Please tell me. I want to know if you can see me." She waved her hand before their faces. "Ah, so noisy. Why are you screaming over our heads?" one of the ladies replied. At once, Tonto's face lit up with a smile, bright and full of relief, for at last, some people could actually see her. "You two can really see me. Ever since I died, you two are the only people who can see me. I am so happy that at least someone can see me." "Of course we can see you," the other lady added calmly. "We can see you because we are also dead, just like you. I am really happy, truly delighted that you two can see me. Now I have people to talk to, someone I can pour my heart to," Tonto said. One of the ladies looked at her carefully and asked, "What is the matter? It seems your husband went back on his vow after you died. Is that not so?" Yes, Tonto replied sharply. "You are right. He went back on his vow. But how did you know that I made a vow with him? I never told you." "Do not be ridiculous," the other lady replied. "Was it not right here, on this very spot, that you both stood and made your vows? Forget about the two of us. All these dead people lying here, every one of them was witness to your vows that very day. We are all witnesses to that vow. Of course we knew about it." "So, he truly went back on his vow?" "Yes," Tonto replied quietly. "He went back on his vow and left me trapped. Now my spirit cannot rest. I can only wander. I cannot cross into the world beyond. I need to enter with my husband. I need to cross with him. I do not know what to do. I do not know how to make him fulfill the promise we made.
And what baffles me the most is why the other part of the vow is not manifesting. He was supposed to die if he broke his promise, but it has been long now and he is still breathing. That is what troubles me the most. I do not know what went wrong. I do not know. I am really confused.
Human and their nature. It is in their blood to change color like a chameleon, one of the ladies said to Tonto, her voice calm like wind moving through dry leaves. But do not be confused because nothing has gone wrong. Your vows still stand. Either he kills himself and fulfills his promise, or death itself will visit him. She paused, letting the silence of the burial ground settle around them like dust. He is still alive after breaking his promise because no specific date was given for him to lose his life. No specific date was mentioned, and that was the mistake you two made when taking your vows. A specific date should have been spoken, a day marked, a time sealed. The other spirits nodded slowly. And because of this mistake you two made during that vow, he may still have many years ahead of him before death finally comes for him. Tonto staggered back as if struck by unseen hands. No, he cannot have more years ahead of him, she cried. What will become of me if that happens? How can I remain a wandering spirit? How can I drift without rest while he walks the earth freely? Her voice trembled like a lonely drum in the night. Please, you two, you must help me. He has to die. He has to fulfill his promise so my spirit can rest. I beg you, my fellow spirits, help me. Her desperation thickened the air. Maybe there must be a way that I can kill him, Tonto continued, her voice lowering, almost whispering. That way, his death will come very easy. There must be a way. I must end this waiting. You cannot hurt him, one of the ladies replied. If there is anything you can do to him, it is to control his mind and make him fulfill the vow himself. You can control his mind and make him fulfill what he promised, but you taking his life with your own hands, I am afraid you cannot do that. Controlling his mind? I don't understand. How do I control his mind? How do I control his mind and make him fulfill the vow? Tonto asked desperately. It is very simple. Get him to look into your eyes, directly into your eyes. Mutter the words of the spirits. Command him using the words of the spirits. Make sure you do not speak in the language of the living. You must speak in the language only spirits understand, only the dead remember. Command him with the language of spirits, and he will do as you command. He will fulfill the vow, and that will end your suffering, one of the ladies replied. Okay, but there is a very big problem, Tonto said. What is the problem? They asked. He cannot see me. He cannot even feel my presence. Communicating with him will be impossible because he cannot see me. The two ladies burst into laughter. Not ordinary laughter, but the kind that rose and fell like echoes from deep inside the earth. It rolled across the burial ground like dry leaves carried by a restless wind. Then suddenly, they stopped. One of them turned sharply and said to Tonto, "Yes, you are right. He cannot see you, but that does not mean you cannot make him see you. You can make him see you. It only requires a little ritual and he will be able to see you." What are you talking about? How do I get it done? For the ritual, you will need one of his belongings, something that has touched his body, something that carries his warmth, his scent, his living breath. Clothes, shoes, wristwatch, anything he has worn, it will be needed in this ritual. So go and bring what belongs to him. I will get it, Tonto replied, and vanished from their midst like mist swallowed by morning light. Minutes later, she returned, holding Michael's nightwear, the clothes he wore to bed. A ritual began. The air changed first. It grew thick, heavy, as though the sky itself had bent low to watch what was about to happen. The wind that had once moved gently through the burial ground suddenly fell silent, as if afraid to disturb what was unfolding. One of the women knelt slowly upon the earth. The other stood behind her, swaying gently, her lips already moving, murmuring words too ancient to belong to any living tongue. Low, soft, endless murmuring. It sounded like dry leaves whispering secrets, like distant bees trapped beneath the soil, like voices rising from deep inside forgotten graves. They spread Michael's nightwear upon the bare ground, carefully, reverently, as though laying a body to rest. Then the pouring began, from small calabashes, from crooked clay vessels, from containers that seemed older than memory itself. They began to pour strange liquids onto the nightwear. Dark liquid, thick like shadow, pale liquid, glowing faintly like moonlight caught in water, golden liquid, slow and heavy like melted sun, and another, clear yet shimmering, as though filled with tiny moving sparks. The liquids did not simply soak into the fabric, they moved. They crawled across the nightwear like living things, spreading, circling, twisting into strange patterns that formed and disappeared before the eye could fully understand them. The ground beneath the cloth trembled faintly. The air grew colder, then suddenly warmer, then cold again. The murmuring grew louder, not one voice now, but many, layer upon layer, rising, overlapping, weaving together like unseen spirits gathering around the ritual. Tonto stood still, watching as the women dipped their fingers into the strange mixtures, drawing symbols upon the nightwear, symbols that looked different each time one tried to understand them, shifting, bending, breathing. One of the women began to rock back and forth slowly, her eyes half closed, her voice deepening as she chanted. The other lifted her hands towards the sky, then towards the earth, then pressed her palms flat against the ground as if listening to something moving beneath it. Suddenly, a gust of wind burst from nowhere, circling them, lifting dust, lifting dry leaves, lifting strands of the women's hair so they danced wildly around their faces. Yet beyond that circle of wind, everything else remained still, completely still. The shadows of the nearby trees stretched longer, darker, reaching towards the ritual like silent witnesses. Somewhere, faintly, came the sound of tiny rattling, as though tiny stones were trembling against one another beneath the soil. The liquids on the nightwear began to glow softly, first dim, then brighter, then pulsing, slowly like a heartbeat. Tonto felt it, a weight, a presence, something unseen gathering, watching, listening. The women continued pouring, tracing, murmuring, their movements slow but deliberate, as though following instructions whispered into their ears by voices only they could hear. When the ritual ended, one of the ladies picked up the nightwear and handed it to Tonto. Now, pay close ear to my instruction. Make sure that he wears these clothes on the day you will humanitize him, the day you want him to see you, the day destiny will confront him. That is the day he must wear these clothes. Tonto collected the nightwear and thanked them. Then she vanished. When she returned, she placed the nightwear exactly where she found it, inside the wardrobe, folded the same way, resting in the same corner, untouched, unquestioned. Then she turned, slowly, quietly. She drifted toward the kitchen. Michael was there, busy, moving about, preparing food for himself. The soft clatter of utensils, the faint hiss of heat, the ordinary sounds of a living man filling his empty evening. Tonto stood close to him, very close, She watched his hands move, watched the rise and fall of his breathing, watched the warmth of life moving through a body that once promised never to live without her. Then she smiled, a slow, knowing smile. "Guess what, Michael?" she said softly. "I have finally found out the reason you are still alive, even after going back on your word." She leaned closer, her voice filled with quiet certainty. "But do not worry, my waiting ends tonight. Tonight, after tonight, we shall be together. That is the vow we made, the vow the earth heard, the vow the unseen witnessed." Michael heard none of her words, none at all. He continued cooking, unaware, untouched, breathing freely, like a man still protected by the veil between worlds. Night came, and when the time for sleep arrived, Michael wore his nightwear, the marked nightwear, the prepared nightwear, the nightwear that had listened to murmuring voices beneath the earth. And then he stopped. He stood still, like something had seized the very will inside his bones. His body froze where it stood. His eyes remained open, barely blinking. His chest rose, slowly, unevenly. His fingers hung motionless at his sides. He stood like a statue carved from living flesh. Then, slowly, Tonto entered the room. She moved toward him, step by step, until she stood directly before him. He was looking at her, clearly, directly, his eyes fixed on her face. He could see her, but he could not move, could not speak, could not tremble. Yet the fear was there, clear, sharp, unmistakable, written across his face like ink that could never be washed away. Tears slid slowly from his eyes, one after the other. He looked like a man trying to scream, a man trying to beg, a man trying to form words that refused to come. Tonto stood before him, watching the man who once held her, now trapped inside his own unmoving body. "You know," she said softly, "I never believed I would one day stand like this, contributing to your end." Her voice trembled, but did not break. "I thought we loved each other beyond fear, beyond death, beyond separation. That was why we made our vow, a vow that tied our spirits together, a vow that bound us before forces older than breath itself." Her eyes darkened. "How dare you go against it, Michael? Do you know what your choice cost me? Do you know what it means to wander without rest, without belonging?" Her voice lowered, heavy, tired. "I have walked unseen for more than 1 year, Michael. 1 long year between worlds that will not receive me." She paused. Then, slowly, her expression softened. "But it is all right. All of that is in the past now. Because tonight, after tonight, we will be together." Silence filled the room, deep, thick, unmoving. Then she began. Her lips parted, but the sound that came out was not the sound of any living tongue. Low, ancient, layered, words that seemed to crawl rather than flow, sounds that bent, twisted, stretched beyond human shape. Her voice echoed strangely, as though many voices spoke through one throat. Her hands rose slowly into the air. Her fingers moved in slow circles, tracing patterns that did not remain still. shapes that seem to dissolve and reform between moments. Her voice deepened. The language of the dead unfolded, not spoken, but released, not heard, but felt. Eya, Nkara, Velungshe, Torin, Velum, Nethra, Kai, More, Selun, Dre, Vel, Vel, Vel. The air changed. Cold gathered, then warmth, then cold again. Her hands moved faster now, weaving signs through the empty air, drawing invisible lines between his eyes, his chest, the ground beneath his feet. Her voice layered upon itself, soft whisper, deep rumble, distant echo, all speaking together. Kala, Maureen, Ether, Vel, Sora, Neth, Era, Faye, unbound, unseen, undone, revealed. The shadows in the room stretched, thinning, bending toward them. The silence thickened, pressing against the walls. Her fingers trembled as they traced unseen symbols in front of his face, over his chest, around his head, as if wrapping him in something invisible. Her voice rose, then dropped, then rose again. Time lost meaning. Moments stretched, folded, dissolved. Still she spoke. Still she moved her hands. Still the strange language poured from her like something long buried, finally remembered. And Michael stood there, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to escape the sound of words meant only for the dead, now binding themselves around the living. When she finally stopped, the strange language softened, then faded, then disappeared into silence. Her hands lowered. The air grew still again. For a long moment, nothing moved, nothing breathed, nothing stirred. Michael remained standing where he was, his eyes wide, his body rigid, as though the last echo of her words still held him in place. Then slowly, very slowly, he turned. Not like a man choosing to move, but like a man being guided by something unseen, something quiet, something inevitable. Step by step, he walked toward the kitchen. His movements were calm, distant, empty of will, as though the living part of him had already begun to drift away. Tonto followed, silently, watching. In the kitchen, he stopped. His hand reached forward, touched the table, moved across its surface until his fingers closed around a kitchen knife. He lifted it. For a moment, he stood still again, unmoving, suspended between breath and silence. Then something unseen passed, something final, something that did not shout, did not strike, did not rage, only ended. The knife slipped from his hand, straight into his stomach. His body swayed gently, like a tree whose roots had quietly loosened beneath the soil. Then he fell, still, silent, empty of breath. No wind, no sound, only the deep stillness that follows when life quietly departs. Tonto stood there, unmoving, watching. And then something rose. Michael's spirit stood up slowly from where his body lay. He looked down. He saw himself, lying motionless, peaceful, still wearing the nightwear that carried the voices of the unseen. Then slowly, he lifted his head, and he saw her, Tonto, standing before him, clear, visible, no longer distant, no longer unreachable, no longer separated by the silence of worlds. For a moment, he simply stared, and then he finally understood what had transpired. He understood that their vows had been fulfilled. He understood that their vow was not weak at all. He had thought it was nothing but a mere word, but looking at his body on the floor and Tonto's spirit before him, he finally understood everything. His eyes softened. The fear that once held him melted away, replaced by something warm, something peaceful, something long remembered, recognition, relief, love. Tonto, he whispered softly, his voice light, free, unbound by breath. She stepped closer. "I'm sorry," she said. Michael understood the reason why she was apologizing. He replied, saying, "It's not your fault. Had it been I did what was required from me, had it been I fulfilled our vow, maybe you wouldn't have contributed to my death. I'm so stupid to think our vow holds no meaning. I thought it was just a mere word, just empty words. I never knew it could be so strong." Slowly, he reached for her, and this time their hands met. No passing through, no emptiness. Warmth touched warmth, presence touched presence. Bound spirits finally joined. Tonto smiled, a smile free of longing, free of waiting, free of restless wandering. "Our promise kept me between worlds," she said softly, "but now it leads us forward." Michael looked once more at the body he had left behind. There was no sorrow in his eyes, only release, only peace. Then he turned back to her, and gently their fingers intertwined. The world of the living slowly loosened its hold on them, like a door quietly closing behind travelers who had finished their journey. A soft glow appeared before them, gentle, welcoming, endless, like dawn that never fades. They walked toward it together. Step by step, they stepped into the glowing passage. The air grew lighter, warmer, filled with a strange, comforting stillness, the kind that belongs only to places where no soul wanders alone. And so, the vow that bound them became the path that reunited them. No more wandering, no more waiting, no more silence between worlds. Only togetherness, only rest, only peace, beyond the reach of sorrow, beyond the memory of separation, beyond the fragile breath of the living. And from that day onward, their spirits walked side by side in the world beyond, where no promise is broken and no love is ever lost. The end.